Listeners, from 1970 to 1974, for 96 episodes, there was a wildly popular musical sitcom television show that aired in the United States. The show was called The Partridge Family. It was a fictional American family who played music together, but the Partridge Family was based on a real-life family. Stay tuned for our interview today with Bob, Susan, and Paul, the real-life Partridge Family, the Cowsills. In your sister's room, that's where it started. Hello, this is Paul.
This is Laura.
And I'm Alton.
We are Team Derringer.
And you are listening to Derringer Discoveries,
where we take you, the listener, on an adventure.
A music adventure.
Today's episode is The Cowsills. Visit Derringer Discoveries. That's The Cowsills. Cowsills. Co-host Laura Derringer is under the weather today. She is with us in spirit and no doubt listening in.
Poor baby, something always bringing you down.
Listeners, we have with us today the three members of the Cowsills, siblings Susan, Bob, and Paul. And yes, their last name is Cowsill.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Sullivan told you, the name of our group is the Cowsills.
The Cowsills were originally from Newport, Rhode Island, here in the U.S.
But tonight, they're with us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome from Newport, Rhode Island, the Cowsills.
Their family band has been on the global music scene off and on since 1965. The Cowsills have had a dozen charting singles in their career, 4 of which were big hits.
I saw her sitting in the rain, raindrops falling on her. She didn't seem to care. She sat there and smiled at me. Then I knew she could make me happy.
These songs charted in several of the countries where we have listeners, including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and the U.S.
And Mexico.
Oh, yeah, and Mexico.
And Italy.
Mexico and Italy. I like that. On Spotify, the Cowsills currently have upwards of 200,000 monthly listeners. We'll take our listeners around the table to meet each sibling. Then we will count down our top 5 favorite songs so far by the Cowsills. We will start with Susan Cowsill. Susan, please get us started.
I'm Susan Cowsill of the Cowsills, and I am very happy to be here on this here podcast.
When did you join the Cowsills?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was 8 years old. That was the actual official age when you got to even hope to be in the band. So you dreamed of it all your life up until then. And I got in a couple of months before the Ed Sullivan Show, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be, help me out, guys, 1967?
8 maybe, I don't know, 7. Yeah.
Okay, 67 or 68.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. And that
7.
We Can Fly was my first album that I did with the band. So I wasn't on the first Rain in the Park and Other Things single or album. And that's important to know. It's a good trivia fact.
The band got better once you joined, right?
Well, I think so.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
No, there's much truth to that, yeah.
I watched your Ed Sullivan appearance, and yes, Susan, you definitely add to the presence of the band.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much.
What geographic location do you call home?
I call New Orleans, Louisiana home.
All right, let's go around the table. Bob, you're next.
Bob Cowsill, age 74, born 1949. Or as I like to put it, makes me sound old, but hi, I'm Bob Cowsill. I'm from the 1900s. So, it just makes it sound old if you do that. I was one of the founding members at the age of 7, and Bill was 8, and then we created this duo of guitar playing, singing guys. And by the time we were 12-year-olds, we were making like $10 at the Newport, Rhode Island Women's Guild luncheon. That was going to evolve to the foursome that's going to get signed and dropped from labels. And evolved to the Rain in the Park and Other Things, where Mom comes in the band right there, not Susan, but Mom. I wonder if they had to add the kid or the mother. Anyway, so Mom comes in, we get the hit. Susan and Paul come in, and yes, of course, it made the vocal stack way bigger and spread it out even further. Susan's on top of Barry and John now. Now we got 3 high, and then we got me, Paul, and Bill. We're handling middle to low. This is quite a range that we developed by the time We Can Fly came along that we used up to our last recording, our most latest Rhythm of the World. So yeah, it was great when Susan came in and Paul came in, and we finished that off.
Nothing like those family harmonies.
And more of them.
Bob, what geographic location do you call home?
I'm in Woodland Hills, California. I'm in a valley. It's a big valley. There's 1 million of us,
Big valley.
Not the big valley.
Yeah. So I'm about 30 miles from the edge of the country, the coastlines in. So
okay.
I'm from there.
Excellent. Well, let's go to Paul then, the other Paul.
Well, I am Paul, and I am 72, born 11/11/1951. I basically got in the group just a month or two after Ed Sullivan, but I was at the Ed Sullivan show. And
yeah, you were in the audience.
I was in the band before I was recording, I was kind of a late to the party kind of guy.
Paul, what geographic area do you call home?
Man, I call Central Oregon home. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There's 100 people in my town, and that's at a busy time. So yeah, it's really beautiful. I got a farm out here in God's land.
Well, I find it interesting. The 3 of you are from Rhode Island, and you're all very close, and you're still playing together in a band. Yeah. Yet you live in 3 different geographic areas. You're not even like within a short drive away from each other.
But we have learned it's a small world, and that's okay today. Because we meet on stage, we're meeting right here, right? And so the opportunity is always there to keep us connected so that you can live where you want to live. And that's kind of pretty cool.
Yeah. And everybody is professional enough to make sure when they leave home to go to a show that you are really ready to just step in and carry it on. This is the way we've done it for 20 some odd years right now. And it works out great because it's always a real spontaneous sound that's coming off the stage.
Yeah, that's really well put, Paulie, because that's exactly why it's a little bit magical, I think. Everybody does their homework.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like walking a tightrope because you're like, wow, hope all this jives. And then it does. And it's like, oh, magic. But we have to come to the table ready. And that's that. Without that, it ain't going to be magic at all.
Correct.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
With listeners in more than 30 countries.
I pay attention to the light outside, how it moves through the sky.
Listeners, you may be assuming that we will focus on the Cowsills' 4 big hit songs.
Instead, we will briefly note the 4 big hits, and then we will count down our top 5 favorite songs by the Cowsills.
The Cowsills' first big hit was The Rain, The Park, and Other Things, sometimes referred to as The Flower Girl, in the fall of 1967, more than 56 years ago, written by Steve Duboff and Artie Kornfeld. Artie was one of the primary organizers of the original Woodstock concert. The Rain, The Park, and Other Things went to number 1 in Canada, and in the U.S., it went to number 1 on Cashbox and peaked at number 2 on Billboard. The song was also a big hit in Australia and New Zealand.
And Mexico.
And Mexico, yes.
Then I knew she could make me happy.
Anybody want to chime in real quick on The Rain, The Park, and Other Things before we move on to your next big hit?
I think Bob's the guy.
It was a great first hit. It was our very first million seller. It got us on the radio. We all remember hearing it for the first time. And the excitement of that is unique. We're part of a small group that got to experience it on a personal level. So we love that song for that reason.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Cowsills, and if you're hearing me right now, that's because you're listening to Derringer Discoveries.
The Cowsills' second big hit was We Can Fly. This one was a co-write. Am I correct, Bob? You wrote it. Did you write it with Bill?
We wrote it with Bill, Artie Kornfeld, and Steve Duboff. All 4 of us wrote We Can Fly. Honestly, with those 3 other writers and me in the same room, I probably was getting them coffee during We Can Fly writing session.
And yet you get the credit as one of the songwriters.
I'm too old to remember. I may have said a word. I don't know. Maybe
That's so cute.
We can do what? Maybe fly. I don't know. But what we loved about We Can Fly was working with arrangers. And this was in the days of going into the studio with studio musicians and orchestras and strings and harps and arranging your written songs with these amazing people. And that was a really fun, one of our favorite albums is the We Can Fly album.
The interesting thing about We Can Fly, yeah, it wasn't one of our biggest hits. But when we do it live, it really, people just love the heck out of that thing because we're just rolling them over with harmonies.
It's a good live song. I agree.
It is, yeah.
In the U.S., We Can Fly peaked at 21 in January of 1968.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
The Cowsills' third big hit was Indian Lake, written by Tony Romeo. Indian Lake went to number 1 in New Zealand. And in the U.S. in June of 1968, it peaked at number 10.
You take a bus mark, Lakewood Drive, and you keep on riding till you're out of the city.
What I remember about Indian Lake was the New Zealand, that it went to number 1 in New Zealand. And that was the only country Indian Lake went to number 1 at.
Why did New Zealand pick up on this?
Yeah, aren't there Cowsills in New Zealand and Australia?
The name you mean? Yeah. Probably.
I think there are, honestly, and I think that's why it's kind of a weird, quirky place that picked us up. Honest to God, I know there are.
Yeah, the family name is in New Zealand. Yeah.
We're going to get there.
Everybody, Indian Lake is a scene you should make with your little one. Just keep it in mind if you're looking to find a place in the summer sun.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Cowsill with the Cowsills. I really enjoy listening to Derringer Discoveries. I know you guys do too.
The Cowsills' fourth big hit, their biggest hit, was a cover of Hair.
She asked him why.
The title track from the rock musical by the same name.
Why I'm a hairy guy.
In March of 1969, the Cowsills' version of Hair went to number 1 in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa. And in the U.S., it was number 1 on Cashbox and peaked at number 2 on Billboard.
Give me a head with hair, long, beautiful hair, shining, gleaming, streaming, flaxing, waxing. Give me down to there, shoulder length longer.
It's funny, we only recorded Hair to lip sync on a TV show, and little did we know we were working on our biggest hit.
Grow it, show it, long as I can grow it, my hair.
This is Antilly from Prague, Czechia. I listen to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
In the near future, the Cowsills are embarking on a tour. I've heard you mentioning this upcoming tour. I have it that it's listed as the Happy Together Again tour.
So happy together.
I guess the first question I have for you, are you planning to play any of your 4 big hits on that tour? And can you tell us something about it?
Yes, sure.
Before the summer comes, we're going to know how many shows. Last year we had 61. We sang those hits every night, and we'll sing them every night for the rest of our lives. We can't forget Love American Style. Although it wasn't a record released, it was a song that we did for the TV show. We were on for the first season, and then it must have become too expensive, and they got the Charlie Fox singers. But because of Love American Style, that really hooked us up on the Happy Together tour. You got to have 5 hits. And they thought A Love American Style was a hit of ours, and we let them think that.
Yeah.
Love American Style, freer than the land of the free. Love American Style, truer than.
And now, on to the countdown, our top 5 favorite songs so far by the Cowsills.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
Team Derringer, pick number 5, Cross That Line.
You better cross that line.
Written by Bob Cowsill and Mary Jo Cowsill, recorded by the Cowsills, originally released in 1998 on their album titled Global, and then re-released in 2007 on the same title, Global. Susan, Bob, and Paul Cowsill, tell us about Cross That Line.
Wow. Bob, you should start.
Well, here's where the title came from. So back then, the 90s or whenever it was, you read newspapers. We didn't have phones. You read newspapers. And there was a headline. And somebody was warning Saddam Hussein that he better not cross that line in the desert, was the headline, okay? And all that jumped out at me was cross that line. Of course, then you get an idea with a generic thing like that, and you can run with that pretty easy. That basically was the impetus to make that a challenge to most people, that if you want more than what you have, you're probably going to have to cross a line along the way to risk getting it.
But if you want it all and more, you gotta cross that line.
Great song choice, you guys.
Thank you. That is a wonderful song. Listeners, that's Team Derringer, pick number 5, Cross That Line, by today's special guest, the Cowsills. Alton, you have pick number 4.
Hi, this is Susan Cowsill of the Cowsills. I love listening to Derringer Discoveries.
Team Derringer pick number 4 is Your Love Alive? This song was originally recorded in 1978 and released in 2008. Susan, I hear a little bit of surface noise on this song that we don't hear on some of your other recordings. Can you tell us a little bit about that surface noise and shed some light on it for our listeners?
Uh-oh, I might flunk this quiz, Derringer team. I'm going to have to defer to one of the gentlemen for the surface noise. Would either one of you know what the Team Derringer are reffing here?
Is it the crackle of the record that you're hearing?
That's correct. Yeah, the crackling of the record.
Oh, well, let me tell you something. The producer of the Cocaine Drain album,
this is great stuff.
Chuck Plotkin, and when we parted ways, he was signed, I think, with Dunhill or Chrysalis. Anyway, let's say Chrysalis, and he moved the tape library over to Chrysalis's tape library. Chrysalis collapsed in a day. It might have not been Chrysalis, one of the other ones.
Electro Asylum.
No, it wasn't Electro Asylum. It's after Clover.
Columbia.
No. Columbia doesn't collapse in a day. Anyway, this just collapsed in a day, and everyone raided the library, the tape library. So the Cocaine Drain, which is Your Love Alive, is a song on the Cocaine Drain album, that got all stolen. And so years later, I found an acetate of the album that had never been played. Okay.
Wow.
And
Oh my God.
It's what you heard. I immediately put it to CD, and I've already actually taken all the crackle out. We have a very clean version of it ready to go. But I know what you heard with the crackle. That's like somebody put a needle on it and it's playing it.
Yeah.
So that's why that's there. It was an acetate.
You guys, way to go, Team Derringer.
Yeah. So now Is Your Love Alive itself in particular, we decided, it's funny, remember, this is the 70s, guys. We are out of step. Okay, disco, the Bee Gees, we love it all, but we don't do it. Is Your Love Alive was our attempt at a disco song. It's got the boom, boom, boom. We copied the bass drum. We started with the bass drum. Okay, we're on our way. I mean, we just took off with that. It's true. And we wrote a disco song, and it was actually the last one to get on the Cocaine Drain album because it was going to be the segue song into recording 6 more songs after the Cocaine Drain album was done. And the Is Your Love Alive was an indicator that we're going to now morph a little this way with songwriting, which we did. And it's out there. We made the recordings. It's not on the album, is all. But Is Your Love Alive? We love the vocals.
Yeah.
We love Steve Foreman on percussion. He's the conga and anything percussion. You'll hear this better without the crackle, but his percussion playing was terrific.
Well, listeners, that was a snippet of Is Your Love Alive by the Cowsills. That came in as Team Derringer pick number 4.
Bonjour les auditeurs, ici Electro One de Paris. J'écoute Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Paul Derringer, I think you have pick number 3.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
That's right, Alton. Pick number 3 was written by Bob Cowsill. This song is featured on the Cowsills 2022 album titled Rhythm of the World. It's a song called Katrina with a K.
I was born in 54 when a Category 4 called Carol came ashore.
Katrina as in Hurricane Katrina.
Katrina, what did you do to me, to everyone?
Bob, tell us about this song, Katrina.
Katrina is a song that we came up with. It's kind of a memorial song to our brother Barry, who passed away in the Katrina hurricane. So when the hurricane struck, Susan, she evacuated, but Barry stayed. And that was a big mistake. And he paid the ultimate price.
It's not like I was scared, not like in a panic, but I didn't know what I was in for.
Now, after the hurricane, of course, we're left here and we're talking like, who's going to write Katrina? Who's going to write Katrina? And it took a long, long time because it was such a sensitive subject. I had this melody, but the melody was driven by the hurricane and the whole scene. But then lyrically, we had to depict this event. And so it's a first person account in the verses. This is kind of Barry telling you what happened.
Yeah, you say you were born in 54, so you're singing as if you're Barry.
Yeah. This was a first person. And I'm going, what's with the first person? But it made sense because as a writer, you're just opening your doors. I don't say I'm getting cosmic and lighting candles, but this stuff's coming into me. What happened? Okay. So I'm writing it and it's unfolding as I write it. And I'm just going with the flow as a writer when you're in the flow of that flow. And this is what happened to him. We think he died on a levee and we know he drowned. And he probably drowned in whatever wave took him under at the time it took him under, because that's where they found him, under the water. So then after writing it, then the issue is recording it. And as recording it, it's difficult to do a lead vocal like that. But if you do it, I don't know, you just get into a mode where you just don't think of Barry. You're telling a story, just recount what happened and don't get into this is your brother, any of that stuff, or you can't, you got to watch what you think sometimes during some songs during recording. So you can get the performance you want out of yourself without, getting all warbly on your voice because you're going to start getting emotional.
Amen. Amen to that. And I do light candles and get cosmic when I open up my tunnel.
Katrina, what did you do to me, do to everyone?
Listeners, that's Team Derringer pick number 3, Katrina, by today's special guest, the Cowsills. Alton, pick number 2 is yours.
Hello there everyone, it's an early bird here from Italy. I listen to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. You should do the same.
Team Derringer pick number 2 is You Gotta Get Up. It's the opening track on the same album as Katrina. That album is Rhythm of the World from 2022. You Gotta Get Up was written by Bob, Paul, and Susan Cowsill. Paul Cowsill, would you tell us a little bit about the song?
So we're out on the Happy Together tour, and if you don't know about that bus ride, you're on that bus almost 22 hours a day, and then you've got the show, and then you get back on the bus. And now for years, even when Bill and Barry were still alive, Susan was saying, dudes, we got to do at least one last album. And well, time's going by, and Bill and Barry passed. And we're on the Happy Together tour. And Howard Kalin of the Turtles, at the end of the show, before we're going into Happy Together, he would tell everybody to get up, get up. I mean, he's screaming at these people. Now, 10 years ago, everybody bounced up. But, now 10 years later, people are going, what are you talking about? But what we had to do was, we are snow kids, okay? Snow day kids, which if we can put something off till tomorrow, we're gonna. So we're sitting on the side of the stage and we're going, man, we got to write a song like get up. We got to get up. We got to do that, and we kept talking about that. And I don't know. I remember one night we're just driving and Susan's sitting right to my left and Bob is sitting on the couch across. And so we're just sitting there and I'm thinking, man, we better start doing something here. And I was just throwing something out. And all of a sudden I'm writing down these verses. And so I nudged Susan and say, Susan, look at it. Is this something we can work with? And so Susan looks at that and she goes, Bob, look at Paul's got these words, And so Bob goes, give me those words. And so we're on the bus. Okay. This is happening in 5 minutes. And in 10 minutes, Bob has the whole melody and we're rocking this thing. And Susan's going to put a bridge in this thing and we're going to be rocking. And it happened that quick.
Yeah.
And it really literally did go down in about 20 to 25 minutes. And when we were done, we were kind of in a little state of shock.
Yeah.
No matter how you try, it seems so hard. It's up to you this time to push your card. But you gotta get up. You gotta toe your line. You gotta take perspective.
It just came tumbling out. It was amazing.
Well, listeners, that's Team Derringer pick number 2, You Gotta Get Up, by today's special guest, the Cowsills. I'm sending it back to you, Paul Derringer, for Team Derringer pick number 1.
Hey, this is Ben Arthur, the creator and host of Songwriter. I'm not only a past guest on Derringer Discoveries, but I'm also a subscriber. And if you love hearing great new music, you should be too.
Team Derringer pick number 1 has been released 3 times so far. The first time was in 1998 on the Cowsills album titled Global. As noted, Global also features Team Derringer pick number 5, Cross That Line. The album was re-released in 2007, making it a second time for this song. The third time was in October of 2023 on an EP called A Christmas Offering from the Cowsills. Here they are, and here it is, pick number 1, a song called Some Good Years. Bob, since you wrote it, tell us about the song.
Well, of course, I had that melody all done, and I needed to write about something. My original lyrics on Some Good Years was all about the history and the career of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And once I started recording it, I started recording that on my own kind of. I had changed those by then, but the goal was to get it to him so that when he retired, they always made these videos, and I'd see them on Wide World of Sports.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
The retirement video, I called them, and be some nice song going on while they're slow-mowing the guy's career. And I thought, well, Some Good Years would be great for that if I could get it to him. Well, I never did. But anyway, I changed the lyric to a more general kind of lyric after that. I said, let's not be specific here. And made it more about the way memories evolve the older we get, and how harsh memories soften and good memories get better. And all in all, at 74, I would have to say I've had many good years, many good years. Despite the little things in and out of them that made you who you are today, your memories work real well for you on that.
It's a great New Year's song.
It is a great New Year's song.
It resonates with everybody's New Year's thoughts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, that's Team Derringer pick number 1, Some Good Years, by today's special guest, the Cowsills. Susan, Bob, Paul, do you have any shout-outs to friends, family, and or fans?
You know, I do have a shout-out, and a shout-out goes to all of our fans because they've been with us like for 55 or 6 years, however long we've been doing it. They've been with us, you know. The association, the Buckinghams, all those cats, Gary Puckett, they're all like in their 80s. You know, or right on the cusp of 80. And we're the younger batch of older people. And I just want to thank all of our fans for hanging in there with us. They're real fans, you know,
They're loyal as heck.
loyal as heck and will defend us till the nth degree.
Yeah. We are a band because we love one another. We're a family. This is how we came up together. This is how we be with each other. And the message being, life is hard. We know how difficult this world is, but man, you've got to hang on to the source, which is love. So for the new year, I'm grateful that the Cowsills have a new record out that sends that message out there because I feel we need it. And it makes me feel good to be kind of ambassadors of love.
Susan, Bob, Paul, thank you for joining Team Derringer today and being part of this podcast episode. This has been Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. For the songs featured in this episode, all copyrights are by the Cowsills or as otherwise indicated.
Listeners, you can follow us on social media. We're at Derringer Pod on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, and at Derringer Discoveries on Facebook. Remember to follow us on your podcast app, and please share this episode with others. Thanks for listening to Derringer Discoveries.
In your sister's room. That's where it started. In your sister's
room. In the U.S., We Can Fly peaked at 21 in January of 1968.
21.
21? I thought it was 14.
We can't even say top 20. What?
That's according to Billboard. If you have another chart...
get me Record World then, all right?
Right on. Cashbox.
Yeah.
Forget about Billboard.
Billboard dropped the ball, huh?
Yeah.
And in the U.S., it was number 1 on Cashbox and peaked at number 2 on Billboard, who obviously got it wrong again. And if your wife is like my wife, she's probably giving you an idea of what happens if you cross a line.
Hello.
You know, I had 2 lines. She saw them. She took them and said that, forget about your song. This is my song. And
if Paul did that with the stranger goes, well, Paul, that's 2 lines. You're going to get 0.2% of royalty.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift has nothing on us.
Yeah.
room.